In a world on the brink of chaos, where strange phenomena and bizarre news became routine, Feng, a man reborn from an apocalyptic future, holds a secret. Humanity is about to enter the era of cultivators. While many ignore the signs, his ex-girlfriend dumps him for seeing no future in him. Feng uses the knowledge of what is to come to absorb cosmic energies, master divine techniques, and prepare for the true crisis. But with ever-growing powers and the attention of secret organizations, will he be able to change the fate of Blue Star or repeat the mistakes of the past? The manga begins with several system windows informing citizens about a series of anomalous events happening around the world. A gigantic abalone was found by fishermen on the coast, so huge that not even 10 people could surround it. It is suspected to be a mutation caused by nuclear wastewater. There was also news about an ancient tree in a tourist area, growing out of control and spreading roots for kilometers. In addition, fissures appeared in the ground due to a possible anomalous pulse from the earth. The notifications continued, giant vines falling from the sky, fairy tales becoming reality, and subway tracks destroyed in various places, causing some victims. But no one paid attention, thinking they were just sensational headlines. It was not much different from the false alarm about a zombie bite years ago. At that time, many students were gathered in front of the school, finding the local rumors far more interesting than the news. Suddenly, everyone's attention shifted to a figure approaching. It was the school beauty Shuking Lee. The crowd soon wondered if she was finally going to break up with her boyfriend. They said the relationship was just an act of charity on her part. Shuking had already been accepted into Xinjiang University, while her boyfriend could not get into any decent university. Because of this, their futures were on completely different levels. Shuking approached Feng and called his attention. Feng turned around curiously, but with a cold expression. She explained that she had thought it through, and that their relationship was not realistic. According to her, school love always reaches a point where one realizes they were not made for each other. A life together, she said, requires not only courage, but also compatibility. For all that, it was better to break up, she thought with contempt, that no matter what he tried, it would be impossible to win her back. Feng remained silent. Noticing this, people thought he was so shocked that he might faint or lose his mind. After all, she was the school beauty, and they expected to see him on his knees begging for a second chance. But, watching him, they concluded he was no match for a rich and beautiful girl. A toad wanting to reach a swan, but with a gaze far too calm. Feng simply agreed to break up, leaving Shuking and the others shocked, unsure of what to say. Our protagonist turned his back and decided to leave. She panicked and called him with a piercing look. Feng turned and asked what she wanted. With eyes blazing with anger, she said she did not care what he thought or what tricks he would use. She would not go back to him and wanted that to be clear. Feng stared at her and told her not to think too highly of herself, calling her the school beauty. Hearing this, she widened her eyes in surprise and blushed. The others were shocked by his attitude. Feng knew that Shuking and everyone there had no idea what was about to happen. He knew that the rules of society, along with the value of money and education, would soon turn to dust. They did not know he had returned from a disastrous future, reborn in this timeline. The girl before him was just a stranger from another life. Feng left the school. He had more important things to do. School beauty and reputation were irrelevant, as everything was about to change completely. The true crisis loomed over all humanity on Blue Star. It all began the previous night, when Feng woke up and some strange cracks showed him the future. And then, the system informed him that an aura recovery had been detected. Its full activation would occur in 364 days, 1159. And when that happened, the world would undergo an unprecedented transition. Fungi was somewhat confused. Several figures appeared before him, and the system revealed that the rules of society would be rewritten. The era of cultivators was about to arrive, and power would become the new standard. Our protagonist, curious, reached out his hand and asked who they were. Then, a strange light began to shine before him. A system window appeared, explaining that it came from the edges of the universe and used advanced algorithms, integrated with cosmic secrets. Its function was to automatically generate cultivation techniques based on the spiritual materials touched by the host, showing that the current techniques were zero. Fungi reached out his hand, and his eyes widened as he saw it pass through the system window. Suddenly, a powerful monster appeared and began to roar. Feng froze, eyes full of fear. Inside the monster's mouth was a corpse, and the system revealed that this would be his end as a common person, as well as the fate of billions on Blue Star. Feng swallowed hard, feeling fear take over. He placed his hand on his chest, eyes full of concern. He began to reflect and remembered his past life. He had been just an ordinary person, carried by the tide of events, struggling to survive and hoping to overcome the disaster. He had witnessed the fall of a nation, the suffering of its people, and in the end, had failed to escape the mutant beasts. He remembered dying in despair, consumed by rage and a deep desire for revenge. His eyes shone with determination, thinking that perhaps this was why the system had chosen him and brought him back. 1 year before the aura recovery, he reached out again, knowing that at that moment, most people had no idea of the change that was about to happen. Feng touched the system fragments and decided he would use every anomaly caused by the aura to his advantage. The system began to initialize a new evaluation. The protagonist's eyes shone as the system informed him that the binding had been successfully completed. A new path had been unlocked, and now everything that existed could be used as material. His mission was to collect powerful techniques and abilities to become a strong cultivator and save the world. In the city, people were informed that humanity faced an unprecedented crisis. The answers could not be found in the past. The only option was to adapt with one's own strength. Everyone was surprised, except Fungi. When he turned on his cell phone, he saw several notifications. He understood that the government had neither confirmed nor denied the strange phenomena, only asked people to prepare. He knew this was the nation's subtle way of issuing a warning. Phenomena once treated as myths would never have gone viral like this. His eyes grew sad as he remembered the past. He knew that this direct and silent stance of the Xia nation helped citizens remain calm and trust their country. It was a slow and difficult method, but far more effective than the chaos and violence of neighboring nations. Then, he remembered that the system had said he could use anything, which meant he should go wherever the anomalies occurred. His attention returned to the cell phone. The #1 news at the moment said that the UV index at Xing University had reached a historic record of the century. Because of this, a heat alert was issued, asking new students to take precautions and use sunscreen. The students were confused, thinking that even the best universities now resorted to sensationalist advertising. They considered it fake, a paid trending topic, since heat of that magnitude could kill. Feng looked at the sky and saw it was full of clouds. He activated the UV meter and realized the index was at 0. He was confused, since Xinjiang University was only 15 minutes away by car. Images of a blazing sun over the university began to circulate. New students were informed that registration would continue, but they should avoid the north gate due to the high UV index. All other entrances remained open. Feng smiled. He knew that when anomalies first appeared, most thought it was just marketing, but he knew the truth. His eyes gleamed with joy. His first opportunity had arrived. Feng changed clothes and went to the university. Everyone was carrying umbrellas. The heat was so intense that the leaves on the trees had fallen. Our protagonist went straight to the north gate of Xinjiang University, the least crowded. He knew something strange was happening there. Suddenly, hundreds of glowing ashes began to fall from the sky. The students fled to avoid being burned to death. Feng's attention was fully fixed on it. He crouched down and decided to touch one of the ashes. As soon as his finger touched it, an intense glow appeared, and the system reported a strong fluctuation in the Yang attribute. Unlocking his data model, the energy began to enter Feng's body, causing him terrible pain. An even brighter light began to emanate from his body. People covered their eyes to avoid being blinded. They did not understand what was happening and thought they were hallucinating. The energy burned Feng's clothes as he clenched his teeth in pain. He put his hand to his head, going crazy, not knowing if the system had finished compiling. He felt he was about to die. The compilation was completed. Feng acquired a Yang attribute technique, the Golden Sun breathing technique. Later, on the day of new student registration at Sheng University, the protagonist's ex-girlfriend arrived at the enrollment area. A boy offered to carry her suitcase. Soon, others also appeared trying to get her attention, but she refused them all, saying she did not need help. She looked at a nearby couple with a disdainful smile. Suddenly, an intense golden light appeared, surprising her and everyone else. A voice on the loudspeaker asked everyone to move away from the north gate. The girl grew serious and decided to go there to see what was happening. A massive explosion of golden energy lit up the entire area. A shadowy figure emerged from the smoke, radiating a powerful presence. He took a deep breath, and his eyes shone with a strong golden light. A screen appeared, informing him that he had created a new technique and earned 50 points. The boy looked at the screen and wondered what those points were for. He decided it was not important at the moment, but would probably be useful later. Time passed, and now it was night, with a strange moon in the sky. The young man began to practice his new breathing technique. The next day, a bright sun was in the sky, and a new energy spread through the university. Some students noticed the sky went dark and cold for a second as they ran to the north gate. A large crowd gathered to see what was happening. The university dean, irritated, asked why no one had heard the warning to stay away. The group made their way through the crowd, which moved aside to let them pass, until they reached the center of it all. A hooded person, with a serious look, told the dean to completely block off the north gate. At that moment, the system informed Feng that he had cleared a polluted area. He realized that the government already knew about these areas, and wondered if there were other people like him. Hearing a warning about who should not enter the area, the young man understood the situation was serious. The students saw people in uniform, and wondered from the top of a roof if they were from the army. Feng noticed that the commotion was drawing a lot of attention. With his red eyes glowing, he decided it was time to leave, and jumped off the building. Down below, the mysterious hooded person walked across the ground, which was cracked by the energy. She knelt and touched the ground to feel the remaining energy. She picked up a piece of the soil to take a closer look at what had happened. She studied it and realized that it had been caused by a single person. The officers began removing the students from the area while the hooded figure watched from afar. In the crowd, the young man's ex-girlfriend was shocked to hear that only one person had done that. She saw a figure leaping away and wondered if it was her ex, but quickly dismissed the thought. thinking it impossible for him to get into that school with his grades. Far away at Feng's house, the sun was setting and night was falling. Lying in bed, the young man complained that his body was still hot even after a cold shower. With the heat, he feared he would not be able to sleep. He also worried that because of what had happened during the day, someone might have noticed him. He picked up his phone and saw a popular news story about a cultivation association. He remembered it. Everyone thought it was just an internet joke. He thought about the hooded people at the university and suspected they might be from that association. Curious, he opened the news to read the full article. The text explained that there were different cultivation levels, from ghost acts to total transcendence. In the comments, many said it was a joke, but he began to wonder if it could be real. Feng thought about how, in his past life, he had never heard of this. Sitting on the bed, he decided to try the technique again. He closed his eyes and focused to begin training. He began to sweat as a strong golden energy flowed around him. His body began to float in the room, surrounded by an intense golden glow. A light was shining on him. The first step was to strengthen the body to withstand the power of heaven and earth. He controlled the energy and shaped it into a thin axe. His eyes shone and he smiled, feeling full of power. The system warned that he had reached the doer level and gained 50 more points. He remembered the points and read on the screen that a new path was open. The system explained that the points could be used to place compiled data into any object. He thought about the idea of putting power into an object and looked at his mug on the table. He extended his hand, emitting a golden glow. The system asked if he wanted to use some of the power to place the yang attribute into the mug. He realized it was like enchanting an item, giving it a special power. He thought that if he did this to a weapon, it would become something special for fighting. He decided that having an enhanced weapon would be important for what was to come. He found a small sword on the shelf and decided to test the power on it. If it worked, he would buy a real weapon to prepare for the monsters. Suddenly, a strange noise from outside caught his attention in the middle of the night. Outside, a dark creature with huge claws watched Feng's apartment with glowing red eyes. The strange creature bared its sharp teeth in the darkness. It looked like a giant demonic rabbit, ready to attack the building. But inside, the young man had no idea of the danger approaching. Lying in bed, he felt uncomfortable because of the new cultivation technique. With red eyes, he wondered where that sound was coming from. It sounded like a rat. He thought the sound was not from inside or the pipes. It could be a neighbor's pet walking through the room. He figured that with his improved hearing, it was normal to hear the neighbors. Then the young man focused his hearing to listen more carefully to the strange sound, but soon realized something was wrong and became alert. Feng went to the door and came face to face with a strange creature right there in the dark hallway. In the hallway, the strange creature with red eyes appeared and stared at him, ready to attack. He was startled and recognized the mutant beast. A memory from his past life frightened him. At the same time, a drone flew over the city at night, showing that others knew about the danger. On top of the building, a girl complained that they still had not caught a rabbit that had eaten a rare fruit. With a lollipop in his mouth, the young man seemed very calm and confident about the mission. She ordered her team to keep sending updates about the target they were hunting. After that, the mysterious girl jumped from the top of the building to begin the chase, falling very fast. She moved easily between the city's huge buildings. Suddenly, the young woman felt the power of the mutant beast and realized she was getting closer to it. With glowing eyes, she finally found the creature and prepared for the fight. The mysterious hunter landed hard on the roof of a building. Moving with incredible ease, she ran down the side of the building and received the order to chase the target no matter what. With a perfect landing, the young woman continued her pursuit without stopping, leaping from building to building. She warned that the creature had eaten a special fruit and could evolve at that moment. A man, working late, saw something fast pass by the window and was very confused. He wondered if he was seeing things, but his boss yelled at him for standing still. Meanwhile, the hunter remained like a shadow against the moon, on the 65th floor. Back in the apartment, Feng faced the strange creature, which screamed at him. With his golden eyes, he knew his body had changed, and he could now face it as an equal. The creature attacked with its claws, but the young man dodged with surprising speed. Feng thought that his body had really changed, and that he could now see the attacks in slow motion, with solar energy in his hand. He wondered why a mutant beast was there so early. Then he remembered things from his past life and faced the monster. The young man knew the creature had not yet fully evolved, but was getting stronger and more furious. He prepared to advance and attack, as he needed to stop it or everyone in the building would die. Feng managed to grab the creature with his energy-filled hand. With surprising strength, the young man bit the strange creature without any fear. He held the monster tightly, and his golden eyes shone with a cold and focused look. Then the young man spun the creature in the air and realized that its tail was the weak point. Taking the chance, he grabbed the beast's tail with all his strength. Feng threw the monster against the window, which shattered with the force of the impact. With his fist glowing gold, he prepared to deliver a powerful blow. The young man fires a beam of energy that hits the creature in the air. The monster becomes completely covered by the bright golden beam, but grabs the golden energy with its claws and tries to take its power. Feng realizes that the monster is trying to steal his yang power and reacts. He thinks that the power of the sun is too strong and that the rabbit is only destroying itself. Soon after, a golden explosion covers the monster, which cannot withstand so much energy. In the building next door, a couple wakes up to the noise. The man wonders if it was thunder. He goes to the window to check, but sees nothing strange outside. Our hero lands on the ground, surrounded by what remains of his golden energy. The young man thinks that the creature was like a hungry ghost, trying to devour his power. After the fight, the monster's eye falls to the ground, releasing a strange black smoke. With a serious expression, he stares at what remains of the creature he just defeated. Without thinking twice, the young man gives a strong kick to the eye, crushing the rest of the beast. He understands that the creature of the night was desperate for his yang power. The opposite. The young man thinks that if it had been normal, the monster would have easily devoured everyone in the building. With that, he knows he needs to learn more techniques to face the dangers ahead. Meanwhile, a mysterious girl jumps through the air under the moonlight, looking like a hunter with impressive speed. The young woman runs very fast along the side of a building. When she arrives at the location, her eyes open wide in surprise. Standing there in the middle of the night, she wonders if someone else defeated her target. Kneeling on the ground, she observes that the target has been destroyed and that she will try to recover the night attribute. However, upon touching the monster's remains, she is surprised by a golden energy that is still there. The young woman feels a strong heat and a burning power that makes her step back immediately. She remembers the energy from the university gate and understands that this is no coincidence. After this discovery, the girl calls her communicator with a serious and determined look. She tells her base that the target was defeated by a new powerful outsider with a special ability. A voice on the communicator asks if the same person who cleared the gate also killed the rabbit. A man confirms that there is no information about this person and that the association should recruit him. The silver-haired girl agrees with the plan. She carefully places the small flame of energy into a container and stores it in her clothes. Her boss tells her to stop her other missions and focus on finding the new outsider. At that moment, the mysterious hunter calmly unwraps the lollipop she was holding. The young woman puts the candy in her mouth and says she fully understands the new order. But before starting the mission, the girl says she first needs to get a milk tea to relax. A voice on the communicator wonders who this mysterious person with so much power could be. The young woman agrees that the president was right and that she needs to meet this powerful master. Feng's day begins with the sunrise. He stretches, ready to train. He knows that waking up early is good for his power, so he prepares for another session. The warrior uses his breathing method, absorbing the golden energy of the morning. As the energy fills him, his eyes shine with golden power. He enters the realm of Ghost Axe and feels the power of the technique emerge. A sudden explosion of energy surprises him. He realizes he is getting stronger again. The power flows through his body, and he focuses to control it. He clenches his fist, feeling the energy now in his hand. He summons his key axe and sees that the weapon is much lighter. He grips the weapon's handle firmly, ready to test his new strength. The warrior raises the golden axe over his head, preparing a powerful strike. He reaches the realm of 2-star Ghost Axe, unleashing his strength. His eyes now burn with golden flames, showing his new power. Feng's body feels much stronger and more resilient after this change. He became stronger so quickly because he used the extra magic from his last upgrade. Feng decides that from now on, he will level up slowly and cautiously, one step at a time, but his growing power draws a lot of attention, so he needs a more private place. In the association's office, a man feels something strange in the air. He sees the change in the sun's energy and wonders if it's the new guy again. Fungi finds a quiet spot by the river to continue his plans. A system screen appears, and he confirms that he will add a special quality to his weapon. He remembers trying this with another item before, but at the time the object couldn't withstand the power. This time, the new blade works with his energy, creating a strong connection. A system message confirms the item's coding. Excited about his new weapon, he prepares to test its incredible power immediately. The test result leaves him shocked at his own impressive power. The sword releases a huge golden beam of light, which shoots from the blade into the sky. The warrior lands with his sword in flames, feeling the power flow through him. He almost starts a fire with that strike and sees how strong his strength has become. The smoke from the attack is large, so he knows he has been seen and needs to leave. A girl is running quickly toward the smoke he left behind. She complains that she stepped away for a moment and missed everything. Suddenly, the young man stops. She sees that the river is actually boiling. The agent flies over the damaged area, wondering what this new guy did there. She already imagines she will be scolded, as everything has gone wrong since he appeared. Just then, a golden flash in the distance catches her attention, and she becomes curious. The huntress is shocked by what she sees. This should not be possible. His power level jumped from 1 star to 2 stars, and he even made a spiritual weapon. The association has only 2 of these weapons, and the way to make them is not fully known. The girl becomes suspicious, wondering how he obtained this kind of power on his own. But she thinks that maybe she is wrong, and decides to start cleaning up the mess he made. Far away, Feng thinks about how his weapon now has a yang attribute, but he wants more. The system can encode anything, so he plans to add more qualities to the blade. Suddenly, his phone vibrates. He has a message from someone he does not know. He completely forgot to maintain his privacy, and now a stranger is inviting him to a group of pioneers. He is shocked to find out that official members must be at least at the level of Ghost Axe. The stranger talks about a new pollution zone and invites him to a group hunt. He asks for the location, and the stranger sends a file about the Shadow River lava dragon. The zone has lava and the same yang attribute that he has, so Fong decides to accept the invitation. Far away, in the Bimu district, a group waits for old Lei's friend to arrive. A member says that the girl's map was so good that he arrived easily. The blonde girl thanks everyone for coming and says they need to work together. She is from the Cultivation Association. She is disappointed that the pioneers there are not very strong. What many do not know is that the Cultivation Association is a government group. Joining the group was difficult and required her family to ask for favors. Because of this, she hates to fail. Just then, one of the explorers sees the rookie arriving and calls him by the name Fong. Fong makes a strong entrance with his new sword and introduces himself to the group. The agent is startled by his power but notices his aura. It is not scary, but warm. As everyone was already there, the leader gives the signal and they head toward the cave entrance. Fong decides to go ahead and ask the blonde manager to take care of the light. The group walks through the cave and one of them warns Fong about the loose stones. They find it strange that the place is still not very hot. Fong reflects on how quickly the team accepted him and feels that their friendship is real. In these difficult times, Fong keeps moving forward, and the ground beneath his feet begins to change color, showing that danger is near. Suddenly, they arrive at a large opening and are amazed to see a bubbling river of lava right in front of them. Without hesitation, Fong heads toward the danger, and the blonde agent yells for him not to be so reckless. To everyone's surprise, the warrior plunges his sword directly into the lava. The explorers panic and shout for help. A fiery explosion throws the team back, and Fongi's system detects a world problem, beginning to analyze the information. When he plunged his sword into the lava, Fongi's system detected the anomaly, revealing a new power, the inner flame, with an extremely high temperature and explosive properties, and also the Scarlet Flame sword technique, which released this power. When the blade was withdrawn, covered in fire and lightning, Fong gripped his sword. His eyes and the blade shone with a flaming power, a perfect technique for his Teng sword. Below, the other explorers, thrown back by the explosion, watched in awe, while Fong remained unharmed in a vortex of fire, realizing that his weapon was absorbing the power of the lava. Fong then used his script points to permanently incorporate the Scarlet Flame attribute into his sword, which now burned with energy. When the flames dissipated, his companions concluded that he had only suffered a small cultivation accident and recovered. The group was euphoric, noticing that the cave's spiritual energy had stabilized. One of them celebrated being able to absorb the energy smoothly, while another, about to begin his cultivation path, shouted excitedly the name Shayoa. The blonde agent Shayoa encouraged them to train while she kept watch, and the team thanked her for the opportunity. The scene was interrupted when Shayo detected figures approaching the entrance, warning that other pioneers were arriving. 3 muscular men entered, led by one with an eye patch and glowing red eyes, who arrogantly declared that this resource-rich land was now theirs. Shayo became worried, recognizing that the 3 newcomers were at the level of a 1-star ghost act, level A. Her team could not challenge them. Despite the danger, Shayo tried to negotiate politely, saying they had arrived first and even offering the possibility of joining her. But her diplomacy was met with disdain. The eye patch leader mocked her low level and ordered them to step aside or face the consequences. Shayo's expression hardened. She reflected on the harsh reality of survival of the fittest in this new era. But, as a member of the Xia Nation Association, she decided she could not allow such injustice. Just as the confrontation was about to escalate, Feng placed himself between Shoye and the hostile leader. With his sword lit, he coldly asked the big man if he had nothing better to do than bully a young woman. The eye patch leader was stunned and speechless. Without hesitation, Feng delivered a devastating blow that created a fiery explosion, throwing the 3 aggressors far away by the force of the attack. Frightened, even Feng's companions stopped their meditation. He remembered the tragedies caused by those who followed the principle of survival of the strongest. Knowing that only overwhelming force would work with this type of person to make his message clear, Feng drove his blade into the ground, right in front of the rival leader. Surrounded by an immense golden aura, he coldly ordered them to leave. Terrified by his second display of power, the leader called Feng a monster and shouted for his men to flee. Feng simply watched as they ran. His companions ran to him, agitated by the incredible power they had witnessed. Feng smiled, downplaying the situation, and suggested it was time to leave. As they left, Shoya reflected on Feng's immense power. Realizing that he had held back, she was convinced that he was a top-level pioneer. She knew she needed to report this great discovery to her organization immediately. The scene shifts to the office of the Spiritual Energy Cultivation Association, where a woman, on the phone with Shoya, repeatedly expressed surprise that another high-attribute pioneer had appeared. The office clerk became nervous, realizing she had spoken too much, especially with an imposing man standing behind her. She hung up the phone uncomfortably. After confirming the report, the young woman cheerfully asked her gray-haired superior if they were lucky to have found 2 high-attribute pioneers in a row. He, however, grimly corrected her, saying that luck had nothing to do with it. He explained that every high-attribute individual is destined to become a new center of power, something that stressed him immensely. Under the sunny sky, Feng returned to the city. He tried to disguise himself as a cosplay player, but his powerful presence and authentic sword only drew more attention. His walk was interrupted when he saw on his phone that news about the incident in the cave had already gone viral. He scolded himself for his recklessness. He knew that the eruption of his inner flame had been too visible. Dismissing the idea that his companions would betray him, he focused on a more urgent matter. The immense yang energy he had absorbed was pushing him toward a new breakthrough. He needed to find a secluded place immediately, and headed for a remote mountain. 5 minutes later, on that same mountain, a young silver-haired woman named Suking, a garden restoration specialist, sensed a powerful presence. She saw a massive burst of light, like a miniature sun, and recognized signs of a cultivator breaking through the realm of 3-star ghost axe. The scale of the energy left her stunned. She never imagined that a breakthrough of this level could be so monstrous. Driven by her sense of duty and a flash of recognition, she ran toward the disturbance, vowing to capture the mysterious individual this time. At the top of the mountain, Feng was focused on his breakthrough. He drew in enormous amounts of golden energy that swirled around him before forming a shining ball, like a sun above his head. While meditating in the air, the power behind him formed a complex divine star-shaped pattern. The golden energy crackled under his skin, and his eyes glowed with great power as he tried to control the wild energy. Finally, the power gathered, taking the form of a massive divine axe made of pure golden energy and pale blue light. He was overflowing with power. Meanwhile, Suking arrived and suddenly stopped at the stunning sight. She watched in complete disbelief, seeing that the mysterious individual was about to swing the divine axe he had just created, and his level of control was incredible. She wondered how someone could command so much spiritual energy with such skill and steadiness, imagining if this man had secretly trained for centuries. The sight brought up a painful memory. Suking remembered her own attempt to advance to the 2-star ghost axe level. The pressure of her own divine axe was too much for her, pushing her back and making her cough up blood. It left her bedridden for an entire week. She was naturally strong, but still had failed miserably. She could not understand how that monster could handle such a powerful breakthrough, even greater than hers. As she got closer, she was even more impressed. The immense amount of spiritual energy, the perfect control in every movement of the axe, and the way every bit of power seemed to have been purified thousands of times, it was all far beyond anything she had ever seen. She decided that this person was not just an incredible monster. He was like a god who had descended from the heavens. She also noticed his calm and steady manner. Most pioneers, when they felt a breakthrough was about to happen, rushed to complete it. That man, however, moved with a deep sense of experience and a strong mind, like a master of ancient times. Her thoughts were interrupted when the massive flaming divine axe began to move. She watched in awe as he swung the axe with purpose, heading east at the peak of his power. Feng's eyes shone with a pure golden light as cracks of raw energy spread across his face. He floated within a blinding storm of golden power, successfully controlling all the gathered energy to evolve. Then, a system window appeared, officially confirming that he had reached the realm of 2-star ghost axe. The new divine axe descended to the earth, releasing all its power. A massive shockwave tore through the mountain. Suking was caught by the powerful blast and had to brace herself against the wave of golden energy. The remaining force cut a huge path through the forest before disappearing. When she looked up, the mysterious man had completely vanished. She was breathing heavily, feeling the weight of the blast and her frustration. Suking could not believe she had lost again, especially since she had arrived in just 30 seconds. A troubling thought crossed her mind. He probably knew she was after him. If he continued to be so hard to find, her mission to recruit him would be impossible. When she was about to give up, she stopped. A sudden idea came to her. She turned her gaze away from the path of destruction and looked at a massive ancient tree, now glowing with a soft golden light. With new certainty, she called into the seemingly empty forest, addressing him as Sir, and asking if he was still there. From the shadows of the forest, Feng appeared, hooded and radiating a cold confidence. His red eyes shone on Suking. He knew immediately that she was the person he had been investigating in recent days. Suking held her ground and introduced herself. She said she was captain of the Firefly Squad, part of the Spiritual Practitioners Association of the Nation of Xiong, and also one of the nation's first pioneers. On behalf of the association, she sincerely invited him to join, admitted that she had been following him for 2 days, and hoped that her methods would not make him think poorly of her. While she spoke, Feng remained silent, his face hard to read. Under the hood, Suking added that, although the public still did not know, all the official documents of the association were already ready. Even so, she was nervous, choosing every word carefully, worried about not upsetting or irritating that powerful man. She knew she needed to sound gentle and respectful. Her carefully planned speech was interrupted by a simple and direct question from Feng. "Why should I join?" That caught her completely off guard. She stammered, not knowing what to say. She quickly realized that empty words would not work against someone so intelligent. The truth was her only option. Recovering, she explained what the association was for. She said that the nation of Xia wanted to gather all the pioneers to guide them on an organized path, and give them extra protection. She knew that growth was chaotic at that moment, and that an association might seem like a cage to a free spirit like him. But she asked him to look at the bigger picture. A great wave of spiritual energy was approaching, and everyone would need to stick together to face unknown enemies in the future. After hearing her passionate speech, Feng leaned casually against a tree, looking tired and uninterested. He clearly said that he was not willing to join. He explained that for now he could not feel comfortable trusting her or the association she represented. Suking was stunned and speechless at the direct response. Her eyes widened in shock at the refusal. Desperate, she quickly pulled her identification card from her jacket and held it up for him to see. She introduced herself again as Suking and mentioned that she had once been a well-known athlete before the return of spiritual energy. She begged him to believe her, hoping that her public identity would give him a reason to trust. Feng paused, thought about her words, and touched his chin, saying that he now vaguely remembered. In his memory, there was a framed picture of her, celebrating second place in the long-distance championship of the nation of Sia. He realized that her natural athletic ability was what had made her become such a fast and efficient pioneer. However, his face grew serious. A dark memory from his previous life emerged, a vision of a ruined society. He knew that in his original timeline, the work of the nation of Sia, including the association, had failed, leading to the end of humanity. Now that he had returned with his system, he knew he should be part of the solution. But joining the association at that moment was not the right choice. Putting on a more thoughtful expression, he looked again at a hopeful Suking and confirmed that he remembered her. He told her he would think about the offer, and before she could reply, leapt into the air and shot away from the place. Suddenly he appeared right behind a surprised Suking. He gave her a firm condition: she should keep his location secret from everyone, for now. In his mind, he studied her respectful behavior and decided that the association was careful not to irritate pioneer people who were not with them. He saw this as a weakness he could use. Suking suggested a deal. She explained that the association had detected the energy of his breakthrough and that she would need to make a report. She suggested sending a report mixing truths and lies to protect his identity while keeping her superiors happy. After a moment of reflection, Feng agreed to her plan. Suking tried to call Feng as he agreed, but in the blink of an eye, he had already disappeared. She ran downhill after him, but it was no use. Tired and irritated, she walked alone along a ghostly path, muttering in frustration about how many times she had failed to catch him and how now he was trying to avoid her. She sighed, complaining about the exhausting work of erasing the traces of powerful energy he left behind after each incident. Her thoughts were interrupted by a voice in her earpiece, telling her to stop worrying about the hard-to-find pioneer and to remember the mission she was on. The voice, serious, informed her that the strange creatures had appeared again. Suking froze, eyes widening in shock, and asked if they were really back. A frightening memory flooded her mind, showing her surrounded by a crowd of wolf-like creatures with bloody mouths and bright red eyes. She thought to herself that she would never forget those strange bloodthirsty beasts. The story explained that they were cold, evil, blood-hungry monsters, born in pollution zones created by the return of spiritual energies. They drew power from these zones, turning into monsters that ate humans. Some could even disguise themselves as natural disasters, killing anyone while dividing lands and creating new pollution zones. If not stopped, their destructive nature would allow them to keep devouring the human world until nothing was left. A strong storm suddenly hit the city. The night sky was not lit by streetlights but by constant violent lightning. The rain poured down and red alerts lit up people's cell phones, warning about the serious storm risk and telling everyone to stay indoors. Another alert announced that the Yang Mountain area was closed due to flood risk. People commented that they had not seen such a bad storm in years, with some joking that a powerful being might be undergoing a lightning trial nearby. And, hidden in a rainy alley, Feng watched the storm grimly, his red eye glowing. He could feel the enormous amount of lightning energy in the air, recognizing its wild power. He knew it was not an ordinary storm, but another anomaly, with its power focused on a single point. His eyes passed over the city's buildings and fixed on a distant mountain peak, being struck by lightning repeatedly. He had found the center of the storm. Without hesitation, Feng dashed into the downpour, leaping from rooftop to rooftop as he headed for the mountain. When he reached the base of Mount Yang, his system immediately confirmed that the pollution zone had been detected. He looked at the peak, but instead of its usual beauty, he saw a grim scene, with skeletal remains scattered among twisted trees. A new system notification heightened the danger, stating that the pollution level was unknown. Still, Feng pressed forward without hesitation. He walked through the dark and stormy forest with a determined gaze. As he approached the center of the storm, he saw a massive blue lightning bolt strike the mountain's summit. Lighting up the entire area, he had found his target. Inside the command center of the Spiritual Practitioners Association, the officers were holding a tense meeting. A large screen displayed a vortex of blue energy over the mountain peak. An officer reported that the mountain's danger was rapidly increasing, so they needed to seal it off and designate it as a new contamination zone. The association's leader, wearing a grave expression, said the situation was so critical that he would have to withdraw Sumkin from another important mission. He asked her to report what was happening. Sumkin informed the officers that, at the moment, it was impossible to climb the mountain, as the unstable lightning energy was on the verge of exploding. Because of this, the area was officially classified as a Level A contamination zone. She continued with more troubling news. Based on how quickly the energy was growing, the mountain would soon be an S-level threat, which would trigger the highest emergency plan. But she pointed out a major problem based on their data. None of the explorers they had could safely approach the area, admitting that even she could not handle it. A shockwave ran through the room. The calculations showed that the mission would mean certain death, even for highly advanced explorers. Facing this impossible situation, a man in a security uniform ordered the base of Mount Yong to be completely isolated, with patrols sent out 24/7 to stop anyone from trying to climb. The association leader agreed firmly. He declared that they needed to stop the threat by isolating the mountain, and that no one could approach until the energy concentration decreased. While the association considered Mount Yong far too dangerous, Feng was already deep inside the zone. Massive blue lightning bolts fell around him. As the storm roared, Feng stood firm, protected by a golden aura from his breathing technique. He knew, however, that merely surviving the storm would not be enough. To obtain the purest lightning energy, he would have to climb to the center of the storm at the mountain's peak. His decision was fueled by dark memories of the past. He knew that the creatures they faced now were only the beginning, and that even more terrifying monsters would appear in the future. He realized that his current fire-based powers were not enough for the challenges ahead. He had to become stronger, not just rely on his weapon. Surrounded by lightning, Feng saw a rare and perfect opportunity to use the energy to strengthen his own body. He knew that if he did not seize this chance to grow stronger, he would face certain death from the disasters to come. His eyes glowing gold, he drew his flaming sword and with a defiant roar, drove it straight into a massive blue lightning bolt. The wild energy surged through him, causing terrible pain, but his face remained determined. His body trembled violently as the electricity coursed through him. He realized that the power of the lightning was like a divine punishment, actively fighting against him. The storm was furious that he had entered its territory and seemed to demand that he give up. Facing the chaotic sky, he wondered how he could make this brute force obey him. Then he had an idea. He calmed himself and remembered his system's rule for obtaining a power. He needed to touch the energy's source. A golden aura burst from him as he unleashed his golden sun breathing technique. Determined to break through the storm with a loud roar, Feng advanced, using his flaming sword to carve a path through the blue lightning storm. The clash of his golden energy against the wild storm created a massive chaotic explosion. Blood dripped from his mouth from the strain, but his eyes burned with determination. He knew it was a desperate gamble, where he would have to push himself to the limit and face death to survive. Finally, after a grueling struggle, he reached the peak. He drove his sword into the ground, cracking the rock, and reached the storm's center. There, the power was even more terrifying. A violent surge of lightning energy made it hard even to breathe. He felt the storm's full attention on him and realized it no longer wanted just to push him away. It wanted to kill him, as if it needed to prove something. The storm gathered all its power and fired a single colossal beam of white lightning directly at him, an attack meant to destroy him completely. As Feng faced the final strike, his system activated, detecting a powerful lightning attribute and beginning to process it. Down in the city, people watched from a tall building. Everyone was amazed. A man took a photo. He had never seen lightning so big. Another wondered if a god was undergoing a trial and swore he had seen a person in the sky at the mountain's peak. The battle ended in a brilliant explosion. Feng had won. A system message confirmed it, announcing that he had obtained the refined power of divine thunder and could now summon celestial lightning to make his body divine. He was rewarded with 5 writing points. Feng now floated in the air, surrounded by blue lightning and his golden aura. He understood his new power. The thunder attribute was a high-level force, both for offense and defense. Unlike the sun's power, which was mainly for defense, thunder could refine his body and transform it into intense energy. He decided that thunder would be his spear and his shield. He also realized that the power was not only about destruction, it was about purification and rebirth. He felt the energy strengthening his bones and muscles, and without pain. The system then offered him an upgrade for Punish the Evil, which granted double critical damage, asking if he wanted to use his writing points to obtain it. Landing softly, Feng thought about what to do next. His first thought was to put the new thunder power into his tank sword. He considered it carefully. Although this would make the blade stronger, he feared it might interfere with the purity of the sun power already in it. He also knew that putting too many different powers into a single item could damage or even destroy it. Suddenly, he had a different idea. Looking at his hand, he decided to do something else. He would implant the thunder attribute directly into his right hand. The system responded instantly, asking if he wanted to put the thunder attribute into the chosen item. A confident smile appeared on his face as he gave the command instantly. All the wild blue lightning in the air rushed into his right hand as he took the power of the storm for himself. The next day, on the storm-damaged peak of Mount Eamon, the immediate danger had passed. Below, on a cliff, Suking and an army officer named Major Heaney stood before several figures in body bags. Suking reported that the energy of the contamination zone had strangely dropped from the most dangerous level to a mild level. In just 3 hours, although there was still electricity in the air, Major Heaney listened carefully and immediately deduced what had happened. Someone had been there. It was a seeker, a person who actively looks for these dangerous events. Suking was shocked. wondering if another seeker was involved and whether they had survived. She crouched to look for clues, but could not sense anything, imagining that the heavy rain had washed away any evidence. She concluded that the seeker must have left the mountain safely around 8 o'clock the previous night. Major Heaney agreed with her timeline. The strange event began around 6 o'clock, and the army sealed the mountain at 7. So the seeker must have climbed up before the closure. He commented that their instruments predicted the danger would reach great proportions, but after 8 o'clock the energy suddenly dropped, and grew stronger exactly at the point where the lightning had been most intense. The major added his theory. He believed the seeker not only survived the lightning but probably had some thunder-related power. Turning danger into opportunity, he concluded that this person was the direct cause of the sudden change. The major then shared his greatest concern. People like that were the most dangerous, since it was unknown which side they were on. Suking agreed, saying that if someone so powerful were a threat, the disaster they could cause would be immense. They needed to find him quickly. Miles away, sitting on the couch and unaware of the military operation focused on him, Feng let out a sudden, loud sigh. Back at the base, Major Heaney made his decision. He gave a firm order to the troops: find this person immediately, at any cost. When his order was given, he assigned the mysterious target his temporary codename, the Tyrant. The investigation on Mount U began immediately. The army hoped that the Association of Spiritual Practitioners would soon recruit the mysterious person codenamed Tyrant. Meanwhile, they would keep all information about the event secret and start their own investigation at Rainy Peak. The leader of the association told Major Han Lei that he already had a high-level pioneer trying to make contact. He then turned to Suking and ordered her to present her report to the major. Suking was caught off guard by the order and choked in panic. Forced to think fast, she began her report. Half true, she connected the current incident to the pioneer who had recently cleared the pollution zone at a local university. Inside, she was terrified, afraid of saying something wrong, and revealing her agreement with Fungi. She explained that she had been trying to contact him, but that it was difficult to find him. She mentioned finding the body of a mutant rabbit he had killed, and correctly identified its Yang Flame attribute from the evidence. She finished by promising to do her best to get close to him and discover how he had cleared the university gate. Silently, she prayed for help, knowing that mixing truth with lies was her only way to make the story convincing. Major Han Li listened attentively, reflecting on what it meant for a pioneer to have a Yang Flame attribute. He seemed satisfied with the report and thanked her for her hard work, calling her a talented young pioneer. Suking gave a firm salute and replied that it was her duty. As he ended the meeting, Major Han Li mentioned that they would release false news about natural disasters to cover up the public event. He also said that he disagreed with posting information about spiritual energy online, where ill-intentioned people could use it. While the officers talked, Suking quietly sighed in relief that the difficult questioning was over. Back at his house, Feng used his golden sun breathing technique to easily dry his white sweatshirt, making it glow with a warm light before holding it, perfectly clean and dry. After putting it on, I checked the changes in my body. Even after adding the powerful thunder attribute, I could still feel a clear difference. I looked at my right hand, which was now releasing sparks of blue lightning. It had completely changed, becoming the strongest part of my body and gaining a great increase in power. As I flexed my fingers, forming small spheres of electricity, I felt that I was close to another breakthrough. What surprised me most was that the wild thunder attribute had become calm as a kitten after being incorporated into my body, allowing me to control it freely. I compared this to the terrible pain I felt when I unlocked the Yang attribute and wondered if energies became weaker during the process. I remembered that the system had said this new power dealt double damage to strange and evil creatures, and I was eager to test it. My thoughts were interrupted by a sudden alert on the cell phone lying on the nearby table. I picked it up, curious about what was happening. I had set up special news alerts after the last incident, knowing that in these chaotic times the government issued warnings to protect the population. For a pioneer like me, however, these warnings were more than danger alerts. In every crisis there was a chance to grow stronger, even if it meant risking one's life. While I was thinking about what to do, I looked at the large news alert on my phone. The report said that a huge explosion had just occurred in a chemical factory, causing heavy pollution in the city. The official version claimed that no one had been injured and asked people to remain calm, but I was suspicious of such a big event. I checked online forums, where people who witnessed the incident told a much more frightening story. Nearby residents described an extremely strange and chilling feeling they couldn't explain. One person asked if it was a cold and evil aura, and another quickly agreed. Although many doubted it, the general feeling was one of dread and fear. The words cold and evil aura sounded familiar to me. Suddenly, a terrifying memory from my past life came to the surface. A bloody hand and a horrible face. I remembered hiding in fear from a huge red demonic beast as it destroyed everything around. The creature, a disgusting rat-like monster with multiple eyes, was a threat I knew all too well. Back in the present, I grew serious. I recalled the nature of these creatures, plants or animals that underwent strange changes after gaining consciousness. Their power would spiral out of control, giving them terrifying hunting and killing abilities. They loved to appear in the darkness of night. Realizing that this new threat was 100 times more dangerous than the mutant rabbit I had faced before, I knew I would have to act. Clenching the fist that crackled with my new blue electricity, I decided I would head out that night to stop these creatures from surviving and getting stronger. As I stood up, I was enveloped in blue electric energy. It was time to test my new skill, and the 200% critical hit in a real fight. On a dark and stormy night, rain fell on the empty city streets as the traffic light changed colors. A blur crossed the wet street, a squad of hooded figures moving at impressive speed. These were the members of the Destroyer Squad, and they were hunting. One of the members reported to base that they were tracking anomaly file number 7, codename Candle Knight, but had lost the target. The known ability of the creature was to blend into the darkness, making it very hard to track. The squad member added new and frightening details to the file. The anomaly emitted a faint hissing sound when nearby and liked to eat humans. When lightning lit up the sky, the squad landed on top of a building to observe the city. Their leader, a determined man with light hair and a scar on his face, knew the stormy weather was perfect for hunting the creature. He firmly stated they could not allow this to continue. Miles away, in a busy command center, an operator received the updated information. He confirmed that the new data on File 7, Candle Knight, had been sent. The situation was serious. An extermination request was registered as high priority, with the goal of resolving the case within 12 hours. The order came from headquarters. The Destroyer Squad was to continue pursuing the target, but the safety of the team itself was a priority. The team immediately resumed the chase, leaping from building to building through the rainy city. The squad leader paused, looking at a glowing hologram of the city, full of red markers indicating active anomalies. He knew that a 12-hour response time was not fast, but it was the best headquarters could manage. The country was large and, with anomalies appearing everywhere, even their advanced resources were overloaded. As the Destroyer Squad approached the last known location of the target, an alert came from base. The operator informed them that the area they were heading to was occupied by agents of the Spiritual Energy Cultivation Association. A picture of Suking appeared on the screen, as the operator explained that her team was monitoring pioneers at the site and could be called in to help. The leader of the Destroyer Squad confirmed the message and asked Said to call her, saying he had already heard of her good work elsewhere. Suking was surprised to learn she had become so famous. The Destroyer Squad waited seriously in the rain. Soon, Suking and her own hooded team arrived, positioning themselves on a higher rooftop. With one hand on her hip, she looked down at the squad below and casually asked if they were the ones calling her in for overtime. The leader of the Destroyer Squad didn't like her relaxed tone. He firmly said that the Candle Knight anomaly ate people, and that this was much more serious than a simple overtime request. One of Suking's team members retorted, asking if that was really the right time to ask for help. Suking then turned to leave, saying that since the Destroyer Squad seemed so good, they probably didn't need her help. She announced that her team, the squad, would be withdrawing. As they began to leave, her subordinates murmured among themselves, one worried about the boss's fierce attitude, the other defending her, saying their own missions were just as dangerous. The leader of the Destroyer Squad panicked and called out for her to wait. He apologized for his harsh tone, pleaded for her help, and explained how dangerous Candle Knight was. He said that without her famous tracking skills, they would be at a great disadvantage. He stressed that if their team failed, it would be the city's people who suffered, as the monster would kill them all. After agreeing to work together, the two teams stood on a rainy rooftop, ready to hunt. Suking focused and a bright blue sphere of energy appeared in her hand. She announced that she had located the creature. The sphere's energy expanded, revealing the monster's position. Hidden in the wet, dark ruins of a chemical factory, the multi-eyed rat-like monster called Candle Knight was eating something. Its record indicated it liked darkness, dampness, and also eating people. With the target located, Suking gave the command to start the joint operation. The creature's senses were sharp, and it immediately looked up, noticing their presence. It leapt away just as an attack struck the ground where it had been. A member of the Destroyer Squad warned that the target had seen them and ordered the team to form position. The members moved with impressive speed, their cloaks blurring as they chased the monster. Surrounding it on all sides and with the prey cornered, they shouted together, ready to attack. One of the members charged forward, giving the order to strike. He hit the creature hard, slamming it into a pile of debris. But instead of weakening, the monster's body began to change, with red wounds and black spikes appearing on its back. With a furious roar, the enraged Candle Knight counterattacked, creating a vortex of dark energy. Suking shouted desperately for the teams to beware of the sound wave and dodge. Her warning came an instant too late. A powerful sonic blast erupted from the creature, throwing the squad members back. The leader of the Destroyer Squad was hurled off the rooftop, landing on the street below. One of his companions ran to him, and the leader, injured but alive, said that if he hadn't pulled back at the last second, his bones would have been broken. He knew they were in great danger. If the creature stayed in the city any longer, it would cause a huge disaster. The battle took another turn as Candle Knight continued to transform, gaining large bat-like wings and letting out a roar. Its throat glowed with green energy, then it spewed a dark corrosive substance that filled the air with toxic smoke. The creature aimed the attack at the ground, trying to melt the street to dig and escape underground. One of Suking's team members warned that the monster had a dark corrosive power and that anything it touched would be destroyed. She explained that her team did not have enough power to fight it, but stayed calm and ordered them to remain alert and not disrupt the destroyer squad's formation. She reminded that her main role was to gather information and assist in strategy. Meanwhile, a member of the destroyer squad, armed with a dagger, prepared to attack the fleeing creature. Suddenly, a pair of red, threatening eyes shone in the darkness. The Candle Knight Lada charged forward, narrowly dodging an attack from a member who was jumping on it. Furious, the leader of the destroyer squad shouted not to let the monster escape. The Lada creature flew through the city streets, chased by the hooded members of the squad. From a high rooftop, Suking and two of her subordinates watched. Suddenly, she felt a sharp increase in spiritual energy toward the creature. Realizing something important was about to happen, she ordered her team to stay outside while she followed alone. The chase led them to a large abandoned dark factory. Inside, Suking said she would scan the spiritual energy of the place. The leader of the destroyer squad noticed the watch advancing on her wrist, and she confirmed it was a new device from the association, explaining that the watch showed the energy level a squad could safely handle was 50. The reading for Candle Knight was only 48. Suddenly, the device on her wrist began to flash uncontrollably. The reading passed 80 and Suking shouted that the energy levels were going crazy. At that moment, a huge dark shape with glowing red eyes appeared on the beams above. They had fallen into a trap. Suking realized in horror that there was more than one creature in the factory. The monstrous dark face of a new creature appeared behind them. The leader of the destroyer squad panicked, shouting they needed to retreat immediately. Taking command, Suking suggested a quick withdrawal toward the main door to force the hidden enemy to reveal itself. She fired a jet of energy to clear the way, shouting for her team to follow her. But before they could escape, she screamed in pain and fell. Her senses were overwhelmed by an invisible poisonous gas. Suking then suddenly found herself alone in the vast greenish darkness of the factory. She called for her team, but no one responded. She knew they were nearby, but the poison had left them unable to perceive her. Putting the pieces together, she realized the entire trap. Candle Knight had lured them into that factory, which was territory of a much more powerful creature, a giant serpent she had only vaguely sensed before, as if summoned by her thoughts. The huge armored head of a dark serpent with glowing green eyes appeared before her. Now she understood that, unlike Candle Knight's simple dark power, this creature's black mist was a potent poison, and they had been breathing it since they arrived. The gas worked silently, paralyzing victims while draining their spiritual energy. Avoiding it would only consume more energy, leading to certain death. She could feel her spiritual energy almost depleted, and without it, she knew she would soon be another victim. Falling to the ground, powerless, she despaired before the terrifying intelligence of a creature that was only playing with them. She closed her eyes, imagining it was the end. Lying defeated on the factory floor, Suking saw a single beam of light cut through the green darkness above. A spark of hope shone in her eyes. Suddenly, the factory roof exploded inward, and a blinding light filled the place. Her eyes widened as a figure descended from the opening. It was Fengi. He landed gracefully among the debris. His hooded figure, silhouetted against the bright hole in the roof, stopped before the giant serpent, identifying it immediately as a dark attribute creature. Without warning, the serpent lunged, its huge fangs aiming at him. At the same time, the Candle Knight monster leapt from the shadows, attacking from behind. Feng dodged the serpent's attack and faced the rat-like growling creature. As the two creatures closed in, he finally understood the entire trap he had walked into. In a surprising move, Feng allowed Candle Knight to bite his shoulder as blood sprayed. He realized their tactical intelligence. One lured the prey, the other executed the kill. He taunted the beast trapped on him, asking if it liked biting people that much. In response, he unleashed his new power. Bright blue lightning exploded from his body as he challenged the monster to prove its thunder attribute. At the same time, he fired a huge golden solar energy beam from his free hand, hitting the serpent charging head-on. Now, covered in crackling electricity and free from a stunned creature, Feng focused all attention on the serpent, releasing a torrent of golden flames and challenging it to see if it could handle fire. The giant serpent charged with a furious roar, mouth open to devour its prey. With incredible agility, Feng dodged, spinning in the air and swinging his shining golden sword. Upon landing, he coldly told the monster to look at his blade, a clear challenge to the colossal beast. The serpent cautiously backed away from the glowing weapon, and seeing his chance, Feng counterattacked. Leaping through the air, he struck a powerful blow to the serpent's face, his sword covered by the crackling blue energy of his thunder power. The impact was immense, but the result was not what he expected. Instead of crushing its skull, the creature's head split in half, revealing a second identical head underneath, as if shedding its skin. Feng landed on the ground, surprised by what he saw. The split head separated completely, shedding the outer layer and revealing its true regenerated form. While a green energy pulsed at its neck, Feng knew the fight was far from over. The serpent reacted with shock and pain as the remaining electric energy from his sword ran through its body. It roared in fury as the electricity intensified, overloading its dark power. Watching the creature writhe, Feng showed a slight confident smile. He knew he had the advantage, having already realized that this serpent's dark aura was stronger than Candle Knight's. Then he revealed his plan. When he attacked with the sword, he had contained all the force of his fire, using the blade to conduct and channel the thunder power directly into the serpent's body. He compared the two creatures, realizing this serpent was much more dangerous and evolved than Candle Knight. Suddenly, he felt a sharp pain in his shoulder where the rat-like creature had bitten. He turned, seeing strange purple serpent scales growing from the wound. He immediately understood that, as he suspected, this was an intelligent mutant species. The venom injected by his partner's bite had a paralyzing effect that allowed silent kills. He felt the intense pain from the wound but also sensed his golden sun breathing technique, acting to fight the venom. With a determined look, he knew he had the antidote. The yang flame power could dissolve the poison. The golden sun technique would protect and heal his body, and the thunder power would purify any residue. As the energy of his powers pulsed, Feng experienced the advantage of his combined abilities. The mix of his yang flame and thunder power now worked as an early warning system against any poison, clearly signaling pain and allowing quick action. He knew he was lucky because for others, this serpent's stealthy poison would be impossible to cure. He supposed that for the serpent to grow so large, it must have relied on surprise attacks. He thought of the monster's lair filled with the skulls of its victims. With Candle Knight acting as the perfect bait, the two creatures became a deadly trap even for high-level pioneers, explaining why so many had disappeared. But in the end, that didn't matter. Seeing the creature's huge skeleton burn to ashes and its sacred body, he knew its reign of terror was over. Before the flames, Feng felt satisfied. His inner flame was powerful, but the triple critical strike of his new thunder power sealed his victory. He felt confident that his combat skills were now at a very good level, even compared to other top-tier pioneers. He fell silent for a moment, watching the flames consume the rest of the monster. Just as he was about to leave, he stopped and extended his hand as if sensing something. His eyes narrowed. He was not alone. Someone was still there. He turned at the instant a figure staggered out of the smoke, coughing from the soot. It was Suking. She remained silent, covered in soot and clearly exhausted but alive. As the smoke cleared, Feng saw the unconscious members of the other squad, with Suking sitting among them. He recognized her as an association agent and said coldly that there was no need to pretend. He added that her dead act needed more practice, which surprised her. Embarrassed, Suking covered her face, realizing this was the same powerful pioneer she had been tracking. She tried to invent an excuse saying she had woken up because of the smell. Feng Gai, however, was not fooled. He praised her, pointing out that while her companions were out of energy, she still kept a small reserve to protect herself. If she had really been unconscious, she wouldn't have been able to smell anything. Not knowing how to respond, Suking only thanked him awkwardly. Inside, she was impressed. He had noticed everything. She had really saved some spiritual energy to protect herself. She had no idea how he had defeated both Candle Knight and the giant serpent alone. Noticing her embarrassment, Feng softened his tone and said she didn't need to cover her eyes. He just wanted her to be honest with him and keep her identity secret. Seeing that she and her team were safe, he said it was late and he would leave. Suking tried to call him, but it was too late, saying that explaining would spoil the surprise. He easily jumped through the hole he had made in the factory roof and disappeared into the night. As he moved across the rooftops, Feng thought about the battle. He was relieved Suking hadn't tried to absorb the monster's dark power. Remembering her repulsive coldness, he wondered why he himself couldn't absorb it. He supposed maybe the dark energy had already disappeared, or that his body instinctively rejected it. He decided to think about it later. Alone in the huge abandoned factory, Suking looked at the moonlit hole in the roof where Feng had disappeared. She sighed, disappointed she hadn't been able to see his face clearly, and realizing he still didn't trust her at the association. Her moment of silence was brief as she returned to acting as squad leader. She walked to the unconscious captain of the destroyer squad and gave him a few slaps, ordering him to wake up. The man groaned and slowly opened his eyes, hurt and confused. His first thought was panic, getting up and shouting that they had been ambushed. Suking just watched with a calm look. The leader and other squad members then saw the reason for her calmness, the huge smoking skeleton of the giant serpent. They were left speechless, confused by the scene. The leader demanded to know what had happened and where that powerful yang energy came from. Suking calmly replied that the powerful pioneer had rescued them. She continued her carefully prepared report, explaining that the pioneer was probably someone from her original mission, an individual of very high level with the yang attribute. She left the sentence hanging, suggesting that his appearance had been a lucky coincidence. The other squad members were completely impressed, and one of them commented that it was incredible for a single person to defeat both monsters. Suking added that she still hadn't managed to recruit him, and that he even managed to track her, which made him even more mysterious. Returning to work, the leader of the destroyer squad asked where Candle Knight's body was. Starting to use a green energy technique to clean the area, he said they needed to collect the remains for the association. While the teams began cleaning, the leader of the destroyer squad used a green energy orb to gather the strange dark remains left by the battle. As he advanced, he accidentally stepped on a piece of debris on the ground that suddenly exploded in a flash of intense blue electric energy. He jumped back, screaming in pain from the shock. Suking watched in surprise. This new discovery only made everything more mysterious. The remains they believed belonged to Candle Knight still crackled with residual electricity. The squad leader turned to Suking, questioning her report. He reminded her that she had said the pioneer had the yang attribute, but that extremely strong electric power indicated something else. The two leaders knelt to examine the electricity-charged body. Suking was surprised by the pure strength of the thunder power left behind, confirming it was a high-level ability. This led the destroyer squad leader to suggest a new possibility. Maybe two high-level pioneers had appeared, one to kill the serpent and another to kill Candle Knight, leaving together afterward. Suking knew that wasn't right. She struggled to find a way to explain the unbelievable truth, recalling the image of the lone pioneer wielding both crackling blue thunder and blazing golden fire. She knew no one would believe a single person could have two different high-level powers. Having just one already made someone a genius. Having two was almost unheard of. The impossible proof was right before them. The burning skeleton of the giant serpent was the work of a Yang Flamewalker, while the electrified body of Candle Knight was a clear mark of a Thunder Tyrant. The teams, united, could only look on in complete astonishment, wondering what kind of monster this mysterious pioneer really was. As association reinforcements arrived, Suing was relieved she had left members of her team outside. If she had stayed too long inside without news, they would have reported her missing. She seriously realized that the rescue team, now on site, had originally been sent to recover their bodies. Her two subordinates who had been knocked out by the serpent's venom finally woke up. They ran to her, crying with relief to see their captain was still alive. With the threat eliminated, the association team began their work. Their role had shifted from rescue to forensic investigation. Using advanced scanning technology, they carefully analyzed the remaining spiritual energy and battle signs, trying to reconstruct what had happened for the age report. Soon, one of the specialists approached Suking and the destroyer squad leader with his conclusions. He reported that, after comparing all data from combat patterns to how both monsters were killed, there was a 99% probability that a single person was responsible for defeating both. The two leaders exchanged looks of shock and concern. Other squad members murmured in disbelief. They struggled to process the fact that they had been saved by a pioneer with two different high-level powers, something they never imagined possible. They knew either monster could have easily killed them, but that powerful individual had finished both, apparently in single strikes. The power gap between them and that mysterious pioneer was absurd. Realizing the importance of this discovery, Suking contacted her superior. She reported that the information about their target had been significantly updated. Looking at the hole in the roof, she confirmed that the mysterious university pioneer and the powerful individual codenamed Tyrant were in fact the same person. In the office, the association superior listened calmly to her report. After thinking over the information, he gave a new order to pause the mission for now. He explained that the pioneer had saved her team, killed the monsters, and secured the area, but these were not actions of an enemy. He added that he and the real Major Han Li did not agree on the matter, and for her safety, and to avoid giving a bad impression to such a potentially powerful ally, she should cease any contact with Tyrant for the time being. While still on the phone with her boss Suking, though agreeing to pause the mission, couldn't help but add one more piece of information. She said she had another theory, based on what happened when she tracked Tyrant to the back mountain, where he was advancing his power. Her boss, interested, asked her to explain. She said that during that encounter, she had felt an incredibly strong energy where he was active. At the time, she suspected he might have a spiritual weapon, but thought it unlikely. Now, with confirmation that he had two high-level powers, that possibility seemed much more real. The association superior was surprised by this new information, but questioned whether the pioneer really had a spiritual weapon. Soon he grew skeptical, leaning back and saying it was very unlikely. He argued that no matter how talented, a solo pioneer couldn't have such a rare item without external help. Besides, he added, the team had not found traces of a third spiritual energy, which would usually come from a separately crafted spiritual weapon. Suking quickly corrected him, clarifying an important detail. The aura of the spiritual weapon she had sensed in their first meeting was clearly of the Yang attribute. This new information changed everything. The superior's eyes widened as he understood what that meant. If the weapon's attribute came directly from the user's own Yang energy, it meant he wasn't just using a weapon, he was creating it. This led to an impressive conclusion. If he could create his own spiritual weapons, then he must be a cultivator of the spiritual creation realm. Such an individual could theoretically do this alone, but this level of power was almost legendary. Suking was stunned by the idea, knowing cultivators at this level were extremely rare, with just over 2 in the entire world. The superior then considered an even more frightening possibility. If this person had a third separate attribute, it would shift the balance of power and shake the entire pioneer community. He explained that according to all known research, different attributes clash within the human body, making coexistence practically impossible. So far, no pioneer had been confirmed with 3 different spiritual attributes. Therefore, if the pioneer really had a spiritual weapon, the fact that they didn't detect a third energy signature could actually be a good thing. When the call ended, the superior was left with one worrying thought. He could only hope that such a powerful pioneer would never become an enemy of humanity. Back in his apartment, Feng was thoughtful under a hot shower, washing off the dirt and fatigue from the recent battle. As he dried off, he reflected on the current state of the world. He knew there was less than a year until the official revitalization of spiritual energy, but dangerous monsters and strange events were already happening more frequently. He used his yang attribute to dry his clothes easily, his hand glowing with golden energy, while thinking about how many pioneers like him had already started cultivating on their own. He remembered the aggressive men he had encountered at the lava river, realizing that once the connection between the body and the spiritual world opened, people naturally became more sensitive to changes in the world. He recognized that, even without official government approval, many self-taught pioneers had already reached the one-star ghost action realm. The fact that the government, through agents like Suking, was now contacting wild pioneers like him showed that both sides were still in a relatively peaceful phase of mutual exploration. Standing in his room, thinking about Major Han Li and Suking, he concluded that for now, the monsters were still under control and there were no serious conflicts between the different pioneer groups. However, as he finished dressing, he knew this peace was fragile. The government had already created the Spiritual Energy Cultivation Association, but had not yet informed the public about it. He fully understood the strategy. While people talked more about local problems and strange events, the government walked a fine line, trying both to protect humanity and to give subtle early warnings without causing mass panic. Despite his recent victories, Feng's analysis of the global situation was still grim. He knew the problem was the government's lack of confidence to officially start a large-scale cultivation era with such a large population. He understood that once the full truth was revealed, society would likely collapse, plunging into chaos and death. In the current state, even official pioneers could not prevent the inevitable chaos, and the combination of internal problems with external monster threats would only worsen the situation. He admitted that the government's careful and gradual approach was not wrong, knowing that human fear and panic could be more destructive than any monster. But what really worried him was how quickly the monsters were evolving, far beyond his expectations. He reviewed the information about the creatures he had just faced. They were a typical product of dark attribute contamination, specifically the shadow attribute, a sub-branch of dark energy that his system identified as the natural enemy of pioneers and currently something he couldn't absorb. He realized these monsters were much smarter than common beasts, working together to lure and kill pioneers, whom they saw as a good food source. However, he knew they were still much weaker than the true dark-type monsters he remembered from his previous life, creatures capable of destroying entire countries on their own. So that's it. If you want a continuation, don't forget to like and leave a comment. See you later, everyone.